Hi everyone, Canoopsy here. This is the Galaxy Z Fold 3 from Samsung, and it's basically everything we've wanted from a folding phone for years now. It has the S Pen support, beautiful upgraded displays, it's much more refined and solid, it's water resistant, there are more softer features that take advantage of the screens, it's really everything we hoped for. But now that it's all actually here, is it really worth it? Well, this is my review. Okay, so I've been using Samsung's folding phone since the very first one came out, and the original Fold 1 was pretty cool, but it felt like a prototype, essentially. This version of the Fold is the most finessed and refined version of any folding phone yet. It feels much more solid opening and closing it, it feels polished, the gap is smaller, like I said it's water resistant, so rain or light water isn't a problem. But the phone isn't dust resistant still, so if any dust or debris like sand or dirt gets inside the hinge, basically you're f***ed. The phone is made of metal and frosted glass and feels much lighter than past years, but still huge and noticeable in a pocket. It's not as brutal as the first two folding phones from Samsung were, but still, you're gonna feel this in your pocket 100%. You might want to bring around a small bag with you. But the phone looks premium and feels premium. Even the fingerprint scanner on the side, which is a great placement, makes a lot of sense, and it's fast and accurate. The speakers on the top and bottom of the phone that end up on the sides of the phone when you're watching videos are loud and fairly clear, and they're where your hands naturally rest, so you naturally amplify the sound when you're watching content. The outer 6.2-inch display got a bit of an upgrade. It's now 120Hz, it's OLED, it's decently sharp, it's edge-to-edge with rounded corners, but it's not something I really spent much time using during my time with this phone because it's just not the best experience. Like, when taking calls, it's great. When checking notifications, it's perfect. Replying to a quick message here and there, awesome. But beyond that, it's not good for much of anything else. It's very tall and slim, watching videos is the absolute worst experience, typing is not ideal on the very small keyboard, and when it's closed, you're holding a chunk of a phone. So most cases, I just end up opening it and using the main, much larger display instead of the small display for anything. So let's talk about the inside display. It's 7.6 inches, 120Hz OLED, super crisp with rounded corners, and it's gorgeous. Bright, colorful, with deep contrasty OLED blacks. The crease is only really visible in bright light, but because of the vertical placement, you at least can't really feel it during daily usage, unlike the Z Flip. However, despite it not being visible, there is actually a hole-punch selfie camera on the inner display. They've used a pretty rough early version of under-display camera technology, and for most daily usage, you won't even see it. It does a very good job of hiding that camera. You do of course see the camera when you want to take a picture obviously, and it hides itself very quickly shortly after, as well as when there's a white or very bright screen, you can see some visible pixels. It's not bad, but this technology is certainly in its very early stages. The compromise of this hidden camera though is the selfie camera quality is just not very good. This is shot with the inner selfie camera. This is shot with the outer selfie camera on the outer display. It's honestly kind of sad. Now you may not be taking selfies all the time, sure, but if you're taking a lot of video calls, you're gonna have the absolute worst video quality out of everybody else in the call, 100%. This is what video coming from the inner selfie camera looks like. And this is what video from the outer selfie camera looks like. If you want to take selfies or video clips of yourself, definitely use this outer camera. It's a night and day difference. So you may want to stick to the front camera for photos and videos, but if not, the inner display camera does still work. It's just not good. Now back to the display, it's considerably stronger this year and more durable, and there is an outer plastic layer which will 100% get scratched and dented and coated with fingerprints even if you're super careful with the phone. It's inevitable. You can of course remove the plastic layer as underneath it is glass, but with a phone this expensive and this fragile, I'd leave the plastic on as long as you can possibly tolerate it for, because if you break that glass, it's just not going to end well. Overall though, this phone does feel a lot more durable than Samsung's past folding phones. I'm not scared of using it, I'm not scared about breaking or ruining everything with one wrong move. The phone feels solid and it feels refined. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, this phone does actually work with an S Pen. Two of them actually. But they're very specific S Pens. There's the S Pen Fold Edition, which you have to buy separately, or if you get a special order deal, I'm pretty sure it comes with the phone. And the S Pen Pro, which is huge, but also works with your other Samsung Pen enabled devices. And the phone will only work with those two S Pens and nothing else. So if you buy kind of a third-party S Pen off Amazon, it's not going to work. And if you have S Pens from your previous Note devices, they're not going to work either. But the S Pen does work exceptionally well only on the inner screen. It's great for writing out notes, drawing simple sketches or rough plans and concepts, navigating the UI, and it really is a dream come true. The pen, of course, is pressure sensitive, and that's definitely a treat, and you can use all the art and drawing apps on the Play Store no problem. I'll leave a link to some of my favorites in the description down below. And even the Samsung Notes app is actually very versatile, as I mentioned in my Tab S7 Plus review. There are a whole bunch of pen options, you can easily save your notes in different file types. It's a really good note-taking app. Having stylus support on a folding phone just makes so much sense, and it's something I've wanted for a very long time. Having this huge display you can fold open and write or draw like a notebook or small canvas and close up when you're done, it's a wonderful thing. But when you're done with the S Pen, besides a little carrying case, there's pretty much nowhere to put it. No magnets, no silo inside the phone to store it, so yeah, it just kind of floats around. And no, we're not even going to talk about that case because it is truly a terrible thing. Still, even though there's nowhere to actually store the pen, having this feature alone makes the whole folding phone concept make a lot more sense. I'm glad they included it. I love this feature. Now, moving on to the cameras, other than the selfie camera, they're actually pretty good. Not the best in the game, but good. You have three 12-megapixel cameras, one is standard, one is ultra-wide, and one is telephoto with 2x optical zoom. Shots are solid. They're quite bright, dynamic range is decent, photos are sharp, things look pretty good coming out of this camera. Night shots with Samsung's night mode are just not the best in the world. They either end up kind of blurry, a bit weird looking, have strange colors, or are just full of lens flares. They're just not great. They're bright, they're passable, but not amazing. 4K videos up to 60 frames per second are actually pretty nice. They're stable, smooth, and using that large display as a viewfinder or watching back your videos, even doing some light edits, it's a wonderful experience. You can also prop up the phone like a mini tripod to take videos or timed photos, and that's a pretty nice feature for sure. That being said, if you're planning on buying this phone and you take a lot of photos and videos, this really isn't the best choice. If you're holding it closed, it's thick and heavy and you have a really tiny screen to preview shots, and if you have it open, it's definitely kind of awkward to actually hold the phone for taking photos and videos. So it's kind of like an iPad in that regard. If you have to take shots, it's not the best experience by any means, but it is a passable experience. Now, let's talk about software. Samsung could have just made this phone fold and that's it, but they didn't. They truly optimized the software experience to match the folding capabilities of this device and its screen size. Multitasking is super powerful on this phone with floating windows, split screen that actually fills the whole screen. And this is not really a realistic use case at all, having 4 apps open, but it can go this far, which is great if you need it to. And triggering multitasking is easy and doesn't feel like a chore in the slightest. The phone encourages multitasking, which is awesome. Get yourself a mouse, keyboard, a little stand, you can make a solid mini PC setup. Or plug the phone into a monitor, activate Samsung DeX, and there you go. You got a little desktop computer setup. And in many apps like the camera, YouTube, and even apps like Gmail and Messages, the phone splits the user interface perfectly to take advantage of the screen size. It's like a mini laptop. And yes, you can 100% play emulated games on it, Nintendo DS style. However, with this unique form factor and the unique aspect ratio on both displays, there are plenty of apps that don't really look the absolute best on this phone or just aren't perfectly scaled. Like Instagram, for example. It looks like this by default. There is a feature in settings that lets you actually scale your apps to fit the screens better, which is nice, but it's still not ideal. Watching YouTube is kind of a treat because the phone can prop itself up, but when you use the phone unfolded, you get black bars on the sides. You can crop in, but then it's a cropped square video, so you're not really winning, I guess. There are a lot of compromises with this aspect ratio, but that's just how it is. On tablets, it's kind of the same situation, so this phone is closer to a tablet in terms of its experience than a phone, and that's something you have to get used to. At least the phone lets you optimize and control how apps look a lot better than most tablets do. And the rest of the software feels fast, fluid, and it is a Samsung phone, so pretty much anything you want to do, there's an app or feature for that. And the speed and fluidity of the software is a combination of Samsung's optimizations, the 120Hz display which feels buttery smooth, the Snapdragon 888 processor, and 12 gigs of RAM, so you're covered with speed. And this phone for my testing has handled everything from daily usage to really pushing multitasking and gaming with no lag or delay. The phone has excellent performance, as you'd expect. But speaking of daily usage, we gotta talk about battery a little bit, because it's important. Inside is a 4400 mAh battery, and I've been able to get through most days into the early evening. So if I start using the phone at around 7 AM on and off throughout the day, watching videos on the main screen, doing some quick sketching or point form notes, scrolling around on Twitter and Instagram, replying to messages, taking a few calls, my phone usually needs a charge at around maybe 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening if it's a more chill day like what I mentioned. Not amazing, but it's pretty good. But when I'm really pushing this phone, using 5G, taking a lot of photos, using Google Maps, it becomes less of an ideal battery situation. If I start using the phone at around 7 AM on these busier days, I find the phone tends to be near death at around 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. Sometimes a bit earlier, depending on how much I actually really push the phone. You can reduce the refresh rate, lower the brightness, stick to the outer display instead of the inside display, but in the end, you're just nerfing this phone. You're spending a whole lot of money on this unique device and just limiting all the things it does. There's no point in doing that. So with this phone, you gotta expect the battery life is not terrible, but it's not amazing. When the phone does need a charge, you can charge it up pretty quick with 25-watt fast charging or fast wireless charging up to 11 watts, and it has reverse wireless charging as well for your earbuds or other small devices, but at only 4.5 watts with limited battery life as it is, I'd probably avoid using reverse wireless charging as much as I can. Okay, so despite all the back and forth, this phone is still kind of a dream come true. It has everything we've wanted in a folding phone for a while now, and for a lot of people, this will be the one that finally convinces them that folding phones are indeed the future. It's pretty much almost convinced me. However, when we come back down to earth for a second and get back to reality, there are a lot of things with this phone that just aren't perfect or the best experience, and it's not Samsung's fault. It's incredible how far Samsung has come in a few short years, but you can only do so much here. You can only make a folding phone so durable. You can only make a folding phone so thin and light. You can only pack so much battery into a device that needs room to fold. And you can only optimize your own software enough and convince developers to optimize their software enough as well. You see, this phone is a true marvel of engineering, and it's a lot of fun to use even for the most mundane of tasks, but there are a lot of things you need to remember to do with this phone and focus on, and there are things you might want to forget and look past when you choose this phone as your main device. But if you've watched this video and you're cool with some of the inconveniences I mentioned with this device, and you see it more as a tablet that folds rather than a phone that folds, I think that is the key to actually understanding why a device like this is a good thing. All the things you love doing on a tablet, all the best parts of a tablet, can be done in a device that actually folds and fits in your pocket easily, or a small bag. That's what makes the Fold 3 great. So these have been my thoughts on the Galaxy Z Fold 3 or Z Fold 3, whatever you want to call it, but I want to hear your thoughts on this phone in the comments down below. Are you team flip? Are you team fold? Are you just team regular phone? I want to hear your thoughts. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe, and thank you for watching.